For years, people thought in order to make a car like this hook on the track, you needed to get the tail to sit down over the tires. They're wrong. If you want consistency in the rear suspension of your car and make it hook the same way every time, you actually need the car to separate. And if you want your car to work and be consistent, you need to understand that your suspension is actually a lever and you may be pulling it wrong. In all forms of drag racing, you want the rear suspension to be consistent. That way you're getting good data every time. I'm a bracket racer, so I need to ensure that this thing is launching exactly the same every single time I step up and go down the track. And both ends of the car, the front and rear, have their own part to play in this. But at the moment, we're going to focus on the rear suspension. Today we're going to dive into the theory of the rear suspension and how you can make it better. Specifically, we're going to be diving into instant center, separation, anti-squat, neutral line, and all those other factors that go into this. Now, this is a triangulated 4-link. You're going to find this under your GM AG bodies, Fox body Mustangs, all those kinds of cars. This is how you make them hook. When you see cars like this launch, they either do one of two things. They either separate in the tail or they squat. Here's what that means. As the car squats in the tail, the body is actually dropping down over the rear tires and trying to move down and forward, and the rear suspension is effectively coming up under the car. So in a way, everything just kind of smooshes down. As the rear of the car squats, the body of the car is actually trying to move down and forward relative to the rear axle. This downward movement means the rear tires are trying to drive underneath the car's chassis. Imagine the wheels trying to tuck themselves kind of in back under the back seat, or lack thereof in this case. It's almost as if the car is using its sprung weight to kind of smoosh the axle and tires into the ground. This primarily downward force can make it harder to generate optimal traction, especially with a sticky tire. That downward motion can also lead to issues like increased driveshaft angle and consistency, especially on a hard launch. A rear suspension that squats is oftentimes associated with a softer initial hit and less aggressive initial weight transfer from the front of the car. So by contrast, when you see a car separate on launch, the body is visibly moving upward and the rear tires appear to be getting forced into the ground. That lifting force from the tail drives the tires into the track. Now, it's totally possible to make them drive the tires into the ground so hard that it becomes inconsistent. Now, the rear suspension lifts because you're essentially leveraging the weight of the car via the instant center and all of those suspension points. So you're using a lever and lifting the tail of the car and driving the tail into the ground. And especially on this car, that lift has always been more beneficial and been faster, more consistent than when it's squatted. So that separation is oftentimes a more aggressive tire hit and a more aggressive initial weight transfer from the front of the car. We can see that on vehicles like Brett LaSalle's Snot Rocket. That car separates the rear suspension very nicely and rather hard to keep those tires planted, on the initial hit and down the track. By now you're probably going, oh, that's great and wonderful, but what the heck is anti-squat? Anti-squat is a percentage of how much the suspension is going to resist squatting. And to figure that out, we need to understand both the instant center and the neutral line. So, what is the instant center? The instant center is the theoretical point between the upper and lower control arms where they would intersect. So if you drew a line through the upper control arm, lower control arm, the instant center is the point where those intersect. Now, the neutral line is a little bit more vague. The neutral line is the theoretical point from the rear tire's contact patch. Keep in mind, I'm jacked up off the ground a little bit, but we can figure that out. It's the theoretical line between the contact patch and ultimately the center of weight vertically on the car, which in a lot of cases is usually around the upper ball joint or the camshaft center line. For this, we're just going to use the upper ball joint on the front end. That typically gets us close enough. Okay, but what does the relationship of the instant center and the neutral line really have to do with anything? Well, as you move the instant center backward or above the neutral line, it's going to have a higher percentage of anti-squat in the back. Whereas if you put the instant center right on the neutral line, then theoretically it has 100% anti-squat and it will neither squat nor separate. Whereas if you have the instant center ahead of that line or under it, the car will tend to squat in the tail. So within reason, a longer instant center would be more beneficial on a marginal track, whereas an instant center closer to the back, it would take a good track, or a good track would be able to hold that level of violent launch or separation. So in a perfect world, you'd want the instant center right on the neutral line at 100% anti-squat, and it will neither squat nor separate. Well, that's all well and good, but we don't live in the theoretical world. We live in the practical world where concessions need to be made. If you're on a no prep style surface, you may actually want the car to sit down and possibly be smooth and spin a little bit, whereas if you're on a more prep surface, you may want it further back a little bit. And all of this actually makes perfect sense because this last summer I was racing at three tracks. I raced at Flying H drag strip, which has incredible prep. It would be called a radial prep, very sticky. Then I raced at US 36. That was more of they called it a slick prep. Same with Mocan. It was also a slick prep. Looking at how the car is set up right now, my instant center is a little bit further back than perhaps I realized with that 12 bolt in the tail, and perhaps it's too aggressive. I was having a hard time getting a hold of both US 36 and Mocan. I just felt like the car was spinning, things were unhappy, and looking at it, this is exactly why. My instant center is perhaps too far back and too violent. So in a triangulated four-link, specifically this is a G body, the A bodies, the big B bodies, the Fox Mustangs, they're kind of more or less all the same in theory. You have your lower control arm here, and what's really hard through the frame, I'll show you in a different picture, you have the upper control arm. The upper control arm runs from the frame to the differential. It makes a triangle, so that way the rear end stays centered in the car. Now, from the factory, you're pretty well bound by the OE points. You have the frame side and you have the differential side. This 12 bolt has been modified by a good friend of mine and previous owner. He added these big lower control arm brackets that give me some options to be able to change the angle of the lower control arm, which is helpful for adjusting the instant center. And a majority of the suspension control arms that you see here came from a Dick Miller racing kit that I had on the 7.5-inch 10 bolt. Those are a Lakewood style anti-hop bar, but more or less any anti-hop bar gives you vertical options to choose from to move the upper control arm up and change your instant center. This Lakewood with that control arm in this car, there's actually a little bit of bind going on. So it's not exactly correct, which is why I'm changing this all up a bit to make it more of what I want. But in theory, you can see I've got 3 holes. As you move the upper control arm ear up on the differential side, the instant center is going to move towards the back of the car. And if you go down to the bottom, it's going to move it towards the front of the car. So that means most aggressive hit at the top, least aggressive hit at the bottom, but this car is still going to separate on all 3 of those settings because it's raised above the factory point. The factory, this car would pretty well just kind of squat down. Another thing that can affect the instant center that you may not think of is the length of both the upper and lower control arms. As you adjust this one longer, it's going to rotate the differential effectively backwards and kind of tilt it down just a little bit. Same thing comes when you're adjusting the pinion angle with the upper control arms. Shortening those arms can actually change the instant center because you're basically moving that point in an arc. And I want to make sure we're perfectly clear here. This is theory heavy stuff because no 2 cars are going to be the same. My El Camino has a very long wheelbase, which is longer than the Malibus, much longer than the Fox bodies. But the point remains is that every car is going to have some different needs. What's it weigh? How does it work? What kind of tire size do you have? What other modifications are in there? So you can get close, but ultimately you need to fine tune everything into where it does exactly the thing that you want it to do. In my case, I need to change this up so that way it's less aggressive, and lower control arms tend to work best when they are parallel to the ground. What I'm noticing here is that in my haste to put this 12 bolt in, my lower control arm is actually angled up, which will contribute to having my instant center further back. Not ideal, but it makes it a little bit perhaps too violent on launch. So effectively, I need to soften the hit. And in doing that, I'm going to raise the tail of the upper control arm on the lower side, and I'm going to relocate the upper control arm just a little bit. Now you're saying, how the heck do you do that? Well, you saw the Lakewood arbs and basically the anti-hop bars, but there's another way we're going to do this. Let me get those parts out. The other way you could go about adjusting that upper control arm is using a box or plate set like this. This is from Trick Chassis. This is the upper control arm that's going to go from the differential side and effectively mount in these holes. Now, you've got stock side, the stock height hole, and then a lot of other options to choose from to be able to adjust the instant center exactly where it needs to go. This is going to be a time-consuming process of put it in there, measure, see what it looks like, determine the instant center, and figure out exactly where this needs to go to be most optimum for this car. So you've got options for adjusting the instant center. Granted, this isn't quite as impressive as some of the back half kits that have a gazillion holes for everything, but this isn't that fast. It's a mid 12-second car, but all these tuning changes are going to make it a better car and allow the car to be more efficient on the track. And when I start putting more power to it, it's going to hook better and do its job exactly like I need it to. So to figure your instant center, there's a couple ways you can do it. You can do it by hand, putting all the numbers together, mathing it out the hard way, or you use an online calculator, kind of like what Baseline Suspension, various others have. You still need to know some of your pivot points, the upper control arm locations, the angles, wheelbase, those kinds of things. You're going to need to know those things so that way you can determine where the instant center really is. So going through all these adjustments, there's actually a couple things you need to be aware of. There's tire shake and there's wheel hop. These appear very similar, but they're actually wildly different in how they come around. Let's start with tire shake. Tire shake is essentially the oscillation of the tire itself as it shakes. This is through an improper application of power. Example, if the instant center is too violent, you can actually hit the tire so hard that now it's squirming and effectively oscillating. It's a high frequency or higher speed vibration, and that breaks parts. Tire shake is more common on a lot faster cars. I'm not likely to really ever see it at the power level I'm at, but that doesn't mean it's not something to at least be aware of. You can tune tire shake out by adjusting the instant center longer, making the launch a little bit softer. You can also go through shock tuning, but that's a much different animal that I'm not going to address here. Now, wheel hop is actually in the suspension. What you see is the whole rear axle effectively moving up and down. The wheel is, you guessed it, hopping off the ground. That comes from a bite, grip, unload situation, and oftentimes it's accompanied with a grip spin, grip spin, grip spin. It also breaks parts. It'll also shake your teeth out if you're not. So just be aware of that. But it's a much slower oscillation than tire shake. So, and instead of just the tire doing something, you have the whole suspension moving around and the tail of the car is going to move. I've experienced it a couple of times in the stockish style suspension when I had a radial on the back and it spun. I'm using a big bias ply now, less of an issue. But when it would spin, it would basically just shake the whole car because it was like grab and toss the whole car, and it was just an absolute mess. So tire shake and wheel hop, they may kind of feel the same from the driver's seat, but they are entirely different animals. Wheel hop, moving to a more aggressive instant center, can actually put you through it. That's why that style of raised upper control arm bracket is called an anti-hop bar. It stops the rear end from hopping. And I'm just going to ever so briefly touch on tires here because that is its own discussion that can go very deep. A bias ply tends to be a little bit more forgiving, whereas a radial isn't. If you're on a marginal track or the car is on the verge of spinning and it does spin, the bias ply is going to take that up a lot easier than the radial will. This bias ply can spin and recover, whereas a radial, you effectively have to just dead hook that thing and keep the tire planted. So track tuning, tire pressure tuning, all those things go into how the car works. So as much as you can have a main fix or a main thing with the rear suspension geometry, all the other things get tuned in around that. So you make the car hit the tire with the rear suspension and you tune everything else around it. So after all this, do you want your car separating like Brett LaSalle's snot rocket? Or do you want it dragging its butt on the floor like a dog with worms? And I realize in this we've covered a lot of ground between the neutral center, the contact patch to the center of weight, or basically the upper ball joint camshaft center line. We've talked about the instant center, the theoretical intersection point of the upper and lower control arms. We've talked about how you can adjust some of those things, and you're going to have to get some extra parts or be creative and build something unique. And in doing all these things, you're going to learn a lot about how to make the car do what you want it to do better. And on top of that, we've also covered tire shake, wheel hop, and a couple of things you can do to adjust those out of the situation. So I want to hear from you guys. What kind of cars are you working on? Are you want them to make them squat, or you want to make them separate? And I'm not talking like the Carolina squat, because that's just dumb. Anyways, thanks for watching. And if you want to see how this car actually has done on the track in this current setup, check this out over here, because that suspension ain't going to be sticking around.